Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Nass the Pod, Season 3, Playoff Edition, Round 1 check-ins. Everyone around basically the sports media and NBA landscape has, I feel like everyone's just too reactive, too quick to give their takes. I mean, this is the playoffs. There's always going to be adjustments. There's always going to be things that are fluctuating and changing. There's going to be players, potentially playing different roles. Players are going to be up and down. Coaches having different strategies, like I said. So I've always been one that is reluctant to kind of, give my big take, after a game one or a game two. So I wanted to wait a couple games. Obviously, after each game, I take notes. I, jot down my takeaways, things I've seen, things I'm not seeing. But all in all, like the big picture is, you do want to wait at least a couple games, at least the way I see it. I want to wait a couple games just to see how teams are, reacting to different stuff from different teams and their opponents. So with that being said, I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't been following every single one of these series as close as the other. So I'm going to hop around a little bit. I'm going to go series by series, just kind of give quick takeaways. Right now it's 5:42, April 26th. The Milwaukee Bucks, Indiana Pacers are returning to Indiana for Game 3. I think that game's actually ongoing right now. Later on today, there is a Game 3 between both the Clippers and Dallas Mavericks, and as well as the Phoenix Suns and Minnesota Timberwolves. So those obviously are very, very big, intriguing games that, I'll also get into in a little bit. But I want to start off with what's been as fresh as in my memory as anything else, and that's been the Boston Celtics Miami Heat trilogy, basically. Our arch nemesis, the Miami Heat. I gotta say, after game one, the Celtics played well in game one. We played as a team, continuity. We smacked the Heat. We took it to them. Game twos are always intriguing because of, like I mentioned earlier, adjustments. There's film. Obviously, there's that day off in between games, so not just the practice, but you have a film session, you have players, talking with, particular assistant coaches and how to, maybe expose certain matchups. And all in all, in the postseason, you just have more time to just key in on your opponents and try and, expose their weaknesses and get the best of them. So Celtics Heat matchup, game two, the biggest takeaway that I took from the game was obviously the Heat. They hit 23 threes, which is unprecedented for a Miami team that's not even a prolific shooting team and really hasn't been over the past couple years. But if you look back at last year, the whole reason why the Heat even kicked out the Celtics in the first place was because they were just hitting their threes and we couldn't chase them off the three-point line. And game two was just a similar story. But the difference is Jimmy Butler's not out there. Terry Rozier is not out there. So you would think with Miami's limited, ball shot creators, point guard play, ball handlers, like you'd think, we have a chance at least like locking up the perimeter. And that was just not the case at all. There's obviously some sound bites from Joe Mazzulla. I heard Jaylen Brown talk about it, how they, their plan on how to defend Miami in the three-point line. And, there were some quotes talking about how they felt like they had contested the shots pretty heavily, or they did a decent job of contesting them. I went back and watched the tape. I'm not even going to lie to you. A lot of those shots looked really open. A lot of, defensive rotations, a lot of Tyler Hero dissecting blitzes, which, Tyler Hero is a great talent. Not sure why we're blitzing Tyler Hero when he's pretty much their sole, star ball handler. I mean, you got Caleb Martin. Like I said, Jimmy's not there. Terry Rozier's not there. You're just looking at it, on paper, the Miami Heat are just limited in terms of dribblers, good dribblers. And the Celtics have, I think, in my opinion, one of the best defensive perimeter guard groups in the league. When you talk about what Derek White offers, Drew Holiday, what he's done in his career as a defender, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, the versatility and the ascendance, in that particular facet on the floor, defending the ball and just defending all sorts of different types of players. You just would think we would be able to hold fort against Miami's limited, guard play. But all in all, they hit 23 threes. I was wondering why we weren't forcing guys like Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, Highsmith to penetrate into the lane. I mean, the Boston Celtics have been one of the best defenses all year. So game two was really, really alarming to me, considering, we were at home. And this is not the first time that we've shown, some home struggles. I know the Celtics won, I don't even know. I think we had the best home record in the league. I think we might have had 2 or 3 home losses all year. Might have been 2. I'm not really sure. But all in all, we were arguably the best home team in the league. But even when we had that hot home streak, that honestly didn't mean ish to me, because last year, game 1 against Philly, James Harden comes into Boston, lights us up for like 40. I think the series after that, game 1 in Miami, at home, and we lose. So it's like, what good is home court if we're not even, defending home court when it matters the most? So those were 2 things that really stuck out to me, was that the Celtics' lack of defense on the three-point line and our continued chapter of just struggling at home in these sort of matchups. Like, Jimmy Butler's not on the court. There's just no excuse for us to lose a game like that. Obviously, there's more that goes into play. I thought, and typically, when the Celtics do lose, it's usually Tatum didn't shoot the ball well, Brown was forcing the issue, or both. In this case, in game 2, I thought both the Jays played well. I liked the shots that they were taking. But looking back on it, it seems like maybe that was Miami's plan, was to let the Jays shoot as much as they need to shoot and limit everyone else. I mean, Derek White had a decent game 2, but he's had some quiet stretches since the playoffs started. Porzingis shooting 1 for 9. That dimension was supposed to be like the real reason why the Celtics are, the team that they are, is that, okay, we have these 2 all-NBA, wing guys in Tatum and Jalen, and then we have this other dimension in Kristaps Porzingis that can stretch the floor and absolutely expose and kill his mismatches off switches. And, being able to play within the flow. And then you've got Derek White, who's just a great, responsible ball handler, orchestrator, quarterback of the offense, while giving you, great defense. On Payton Pritchard, he took 0 shots in game 2. That's a no-no. I don't think we gave him 3 years, $30 million, or whatever the contract is that we gave him prior to the season started, for him to take no shots in a game 2 of the first round. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it's clearly it's a lack of aggressiveness, but I don't know if he's just not comfortable in the right spots. Was Miami just, getting under him? Because I know Miami can be a very, formidable defense, where they just, getting in his shit and just forcing him to just, give the rock up, pick up his dribble. Not quite sure what the deal is there. And the thing is, we're gonna need Payton Pritchard to keep the live dribble. We're gonna need him to help out the second unit, because I know Derek White, Drew Holiday, they're great. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they're good at, looking for their shot, but we do need that guy in the second unit with guys like Hauser, Cornette. When guys get a breather, we don't need Tatum and Jaylen playing 42 minutes a night trying to orchestrate the offense and, maximize their teammates. That's a point guard's job. So that's why we have Derek White. That's why we have Drew Holiday. And then you got Pritchard, who's basically been the spark off the bench. And after Pritchard, I'm not going to lie to you, the Celtics bench is kind of thin in that aspect. You got Brissett, you got Cornette, but I'm not sure if there's really going to be a series where we see either of them being effective in the half court. I mean, the playoffs is just a different game. The bench just shortens. So I'm a little alarmed, just because both the Jays played very well in game 2, didn't get much from the bench. We couldn't chase the heat off the three-point line. Not sure why we were just unable to guard the pick and roll between Bam and Tyler Hero. And then, obviously, like I said, chasing shooters off. If Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, it's inevitable. They're going to hit a couple. They're pretty solid shooters, especially Duncan Robinson. But once you get Tyler Hero, get some, Highsmith, and my thing is, Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier, those are 2 of the Heat's, best ball handlers, organizers of the offense. They're not even on the court yet. So you're just adding more responsibility to the Celtics once either of those guys get back, or both of them. I'm not really sure what Jimmy Butler's timeline is looking like. Pretty sure he's not expected to return, but knowing him, I wouldn't be shocked if he was good for game 5 or game 6. You just never know. But you don't want it to get to that point as a Celtics fan. And that's the reason why we struggled last year, is that we just wasted too much time with the Atlanta Hawks. We wasted too much time with the Philadelphia 76ers. And credit to those teams. They played very hard. and well deserved. They won those games in those specific series. But listen, if you're supposed to be a title juggernaut, if you're this 60 plus win team that is just you know from start to finish just arguably the best team in the league. And when you look at the regular season, like it's only been the Celtics and the Nuggets, like through and through, who have been considered arguably the best team in the league. And it's just alarming to me that game two, at home, we're just, I mean, anyways, I picked the Celtics to win in five. I just didn't envision the Heat getting the best of us that early in the series and in that specific way where we can't figure out how to chase them off the 3-point line. Peyton Pritchard taking 0 shots, limited bench scoring. I didn't see that coming. But this is the playoffs, and I want to welcome everyone. This is exactly how the playoffs are. It's just it's competitive, and this is really where coaching matters. And I know, as cliche as that sounds, this is just where you throughout the whole season, we're always going to look at teams for the talent that they have on their roster, potential moves to be made, how players fit with each other. But once you get to the postseason, that coaching component really, really does, put you in a whole different tier. You can look at guys like Mike Malone, Tyronn Lue, Eric Spoelstra, Nick Nurse, all these guys. Then you look back, you got obviously the legends like, Greg Popovich, Pat Riley, Phil Jackson. You have just, when you get to the playoffs, like, coaching does matter. And when you look at it, it's Eric Spoelstra versus Joe Mazzulla. Now Joe Mazzulla has done an exceptional job to this point in his first 2 years as a Celtics coach. But there is an experience factor that does matter. And I know last year was his first year, and we had a great regular season, kind of flamed out in the playoffs after going down 3-0. But you just have to be ready for particular coaching matchups. Coaching matchups do matter. Because you look at the roster on paper, Miami just should not be touching this team without Terry Rozier and Jimmy Butler at all. They just shouldn't. But like I said about that coaching component, that does matter. And that might be just a teeny bit of the difference maker between the series going 7 games and the series going 5 games. Now, I envision 5 games. I do believe that Mazzulla and his experience from last year and the talent on the roster and all the momentum that we've built out throughout the regular season will be able to overcome, those challenges that Eric Spoelstra is going to throw at us, because no one is as familiar with the Celtics as Eric Spoelstra has been, over the past couple of years. So that is something I want to look out for. I'm not pressing the panic button, but I definitely want to see Mazzulla, some adjustments. I don't want to have a bad loss and then we just get to the press conference and then he's kind of semi-casual about listen, we'll be fine. Like, no, man, this is the playoffs. Time is ticking for sure. You know what I mean? We just signed Drew Holiday to that extension. Derek White, before you know it, I think within not next year, but I think the year after that, he's going to be up. He's going to get paid. He's definitely going to get paid, well-deserving. And obviously Tatum, his extension has really been the big cloud that's hovering over the Celtics. That has to, happen. You know what I mean? That's another guy that you're adding on your payroll that we're going to be a second apron team. We should just know that. It's inevitable. Jaylen Brown, obviously, with his contract, like he signed prior to the season. And who knows, maybe this game 2 against Miami, that was just the wake-up call. And we'll just move on from there. So that's all I got for Celtics Heat. Next, I want to dive into the Phoenix Suns, Minnesota T-Wolves. Minnesota's up 2-0. Myself, I've been basically wrong, just like all of the NBA analysts, experts, writers, bloggers, journalists. Everyone basically picked the Suns in, I think, 6-game, 7-game series. I know the series was going to be long because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to be naive. Minnesota Timberwolves have been one of the best defenses and starting fives all season. And that's even including when they were missing their star in Karl-Anthony Towns. He's come back. I was pretty dubious to think that he would be okay. He's been better than I thought. He's moving better than I thought. Still stretching the floor. He hasn't obviously been, Karl-Anthony Towns that, made the All-Star team and is like a 50, 40, 85 big man. But when you look at it, it's very alarming to me that Phoenix has three guys that have been to the playoffs before. They know how to, basically make that transition from regular season basketball to playoff basketball. We've got a guy in Devin Booker who led the league in the playoffs in scoring last year. This year, off to a very cold start. I will give credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves defenders and Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You got Rudy Gobert in the paint, Defensive Player of the Year. It's looking like this year. You got him in the paint, anchoring the paint, defending the rim. And he has actually been impacting their shots. He impacts their drives to the rim. I was someone that said Bradley Beal is the Phoenix Suns' best paint toucher, paint driver, just their best guy getting to the rim. You know what really can throw off Bradley Beal going to the rim is a guy like Rudy Gobert. I'm not really sure where the Suns go from here besides hoping they can hit their shots. Watching the tape, a lot of their buckets come in isolation, and I know that's not particularly shocking, but with these three vets that have been in the playoffs, these three stars, you would think that there's, some, like I said about experience, there's a factor that goes into this. Like, listen, we're not going to be able to beat these guys one-on-one. Like, the your turn, my turn, your turn, it's a very, very, very rare, type of mechanism to incorporate in your offense of your turn, my turn. Last year, we saw KD and Booker showcase that on the highest level, and they were hot. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, that's just not winning team basketball. Suns won't be able to win the series if they're not able to put pressure on Rudy Gobert in the paint, get guys moving around. When you look at the way they're scoring their points, a lot of guys are standing around. The ball's not really moving around. There's not a lot of guys. Guys are kind of stationary on the perimeter, just watching. Okay, Bradley Beal, it's your turn. See what you can do. I'm shocked that Phoenix is not spamming pick and roll, throwing Rudy Gobert in a bunch of pick and rolls, throwing Karl-Anthony Towns in a bunch of pick and rolls. One way to free up Devin Booker from Jaden McDaniels is just spam him in pick and rolls. Kevin Durant has pretty much been a turnover machine whenever he gets doubled. I know his first step is not the same. Me and my boy Toby on the previous episode, we talked about it. But that's still a guy that is a very, very great methodical three-level scorer if you get him in his spots. And they showcased that in game one. KD had 31. He got to his spots. He was effective. I believe he shot 11 for 19 from the field. But everyone else didn't eat. And this goes back to what I was saying about the one-on-one stuff. There has to be a way for the Phoenix Suns to unlock their offense without just relying on one-on-one basketball. And with that being said, the lineup of Booker, Beal, KD, Royce, Nurkic, Royce O'Neal, I like Royce O'Neal, and I like what he does for the team, stretching the floor, being able to guard opposing, guards and stuff like that, smaller wings. But rolling out a lineup of Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Royce O'Neal, and Kevin Durant, those are four basically perimeter-based players. Kevin Durant, he's playing the four, but he's not traditionally a four. He's basically a tall two guard that can, post up and, show you other facets of his offensive game. I'm shocked that Bol hasn't been getting a lot of more minutes. I feel like Bol has been someone that every time the Suns call upon, I feel like he rings the bell. He always answers in some sort of way. He's showcased that he can give you some supplemental scoring off the bench, can rebound a little bit, give effort. That's all it's been with Bol. And I'm just shocked that Frank Vogel hasn't extended the bench to the point where we should, put Bol out there. A lineup of Nurkic, Bol, KD, Booker, Beal, or let's say Grayson, Booker, KD, Bol, Nurkic, lineups like that, I feel like that would just put them in better positions because they have more length. They have guys that can set more picks. You're still able to space the floor because Bol is not a guy you're going to leave open from three. He can still, hit the three ball if you give him if you put him in the right spots. But I'm just really shocked at the possession to possessions from the Phoenix Suns. And this has been one of the best offenses in the league, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league. If you go and look up the Durant, Booker, Beal, three-man lineups, the offensive rating is great. Net rating is great. They get great shots. They outscore their opponents. It's just really, I'm honestly shocked even articulating this to you guys. I'm just shocked at how much they're struggling on offense. On defense, they haven't even been that bad. I mean, Bradley Beal's assignment has been basically Anthony Edwards most of the series. Anthony Edwards had a great game one, didn't shoot that well in game two, and that was the alarming part to me, is that like the Minnesota Timberwolves can still pull out W's against teams like the Phoenix Suns, even on nights that Anthony Edwards' shot is not falling. That's really alarming. And like I said, Karl Anthony Towns is still recovering from this MCL, no, not MCL, sorry, this meniscus injury. He's still working his way back. He's not even really Karl Anthony Towns yet. So if the Wolves are still able to win games at this stage of the playoffs against a team that, has plenty of playoff experience, that's kind of alarming to me. I already knew that Phoenix wasn't going to be a good rebounding team. But, with 10 games to go in the regular season, Phoenix won the last two against Minnesota, including the last game of the season when they marched into Minnesota and smacked them. And, obviously that's going to humble Minnesota. Kudos to Minnesota, Chris Finch, and, the coaching staff for getting Minnesota right. And, Anthony Edwards, yet again in the postseason, ascending himself into this, cream of the crop, superstar play. I just expected a little bit more from Phoenix, especially offensively. Devin Booker led the league in the playoff scoring last year. Not seeing it. That's not a good look. Bill Simmons is over here cooking up trade packages already for Devin Booker. Like, this is not where the Phoenix Suns are supposed to be. And as a guy that has written about them, talked about them numerous occasions, on Instagram, on Nass the Pod Instagram, on Nass the Pod episodes on YouTube, I'm just shocked because I was so enamored with their shot making ability, and I still wouldn't even call Beal, Booker, or Durant selfish. They've played with all sorts of different star players and guys in different points in their career. They should know how to play off of different scorers and playmakers. I'm just shocked that it's gone to this point, and I'm just really, I'm looking at it right now. Through 2 games, 17.5 assists, 17.5 turnovers. I'm looking at it right now. Phoenix Suns, they have a 17.5 assist to turnover ratio. That's not going to get it done. I know they've been one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the league to this point, but I just didn't think offense would be the struggle. That's just not what I envisioned. Anyways, game 3's tonight. I do expect the Suns to bring it home. I think the crowd's going to be electrified. This is Beal's first, Phoenix Suns home game. I think he's going to be really the X factor, and I think he has to be the X factor the rest of the series, because when you look at it, Chris Finch is not going to change his defensive tactics for Booker and KD. He's still going to send 2 to them, but with the amount of shooting that they have with Beal and Grayson Allen. And Beal, I'm naming Beal, saying he should be the X factor. He's not even shooting bad from the field. He's shooting 44%. I think a tick under 40 from 3. He's been okay. He hasn't been great. But I do think that his aggressiveness needs to be here if the Suns have any chance at winning the series. Obviously, it's easy to say, KD and Booker, hit your shots. Cool. But if they really want to actually beat Minnesota, it has to be Beal. It has to be. And I do think Bol deserves some playing time. Grayson Allen is on a bum ankle. I think you need to get more length out there. I think you need more bruisers out there. And I know Bol's not particularly a bruiser, but that's definitely a guy that you've been playing him in crunch time a good chunk of the season, if not a majority. He's been getting some crunch time minutes. What did you play him all the regular season minutes to quit on him now? I don't necessarily want to say this is a bad matchup for Phoenix, considering their success against Minnesota in the regular season. And I know, regular season versus playoffs are 2 completely different stories, but through 2 games, the Phoenix Suns just don't look like the Phoenix Suns of the regular season. They look like this is probably the worst version of them, if we're really being honest. And they're not even getting outscored. Their problem is solely offense. They need more ball movement. I think they should run the pick and roll more. I think they should do some KD, Booker, Beal pick and rolls, whether Beal and Booker are playing as the pick guy and KD's handling the ball. If they send 2 at KD, you still have Beal and Booker flying off that pick. And then before you know it, it might become a 4-on-3. You have to guard up at the perimeter. So I want to see more fluidity in their offense. It's just really alarming that to this point that offense is what is holding them back. And everyone's going to say, they need a point guard. They need a point guard. I saw Chandler Parsons say something about, IT should start. If IT starts, who's defending it? Mike Conley even Mike Conley would still get the best of Isaiah Thomas right now. He would. He would just play the old man's muscle game, back him down. They'll throw him in a million screens, a million switches. Like, you're just going to make Chris Finch's job a lot more easier. So I don't think IT is the solution, but I do think that the Suns need to use each other more. I think that everyone's kind of taking the pressure on themselves. Whenever Durant gets the ball, he's thinking, okay, how can I make this play? You can use your guys. You know what I mean? Use your guys. But that's enough that I got for the Suns T-Wolves. The Mavericks and Clippers, they are tied 1-1. Kawhi Leonard returned for Game 2. A very shocking, Game 1 loss by the Mavericks. I shouldn't even say shocking loss, but a shocking performance, because the Clippers are a hell of a team. They are loaded. But without Kawhi Leonard, the way they came out on offense was just very alarming. It seemed like they started to pick things up in the second half. Kyrie had that 20-point heater in the third quarter of Game 1. It seemed like even though the Mavericks lost, they left with some momentum, and I think it kind of carried on into Game 2, and they played a hell of a contest. This, to me, in my opinion, this series is literally like the highest level of shot making ability, playmaking ability. You got guys who have all sorts of stars, from Kawhi, PG, Harden, Kyrie, Luka, Russell Westbrook. You got guys who've been in All-Star games, All-NBAs. You got guys that have won rings. You have guys that have just played at the highest level. And this amount of perimeter guard / wing power in one series is just, it's beyond fun to watch, especially for me. Kawhi was a little slow in Game 2, as expected. He's been out for a good chunk over the past month with this knee swelling, but it's definitely going to take him a little bit to get back into the swing of things. I definitely expect a better version of him tonight. I still think the Mavericks will pull out the Game 3 W. I still think that, the emotions, the Mavericks weren't in the playoffs last year. It's been a while since they've seen Luka on this stage. Kyrie's first home playoff game. I think the crowd's going to be electric, and I think they're just going to feed off of it. And Dallas has been a great, home team, especially in the second half of the season. But my questions that I do have, some takeaways, is that I'm not sure, and Draymond Green touched upon this, I'm not sure you can keep Russell Westbrook on the bench for very long stretches, especially in the fourth quarter, because he is really your sole, point of attack defender, on guys like Kyrie and Luka. And yeah, I know you have PG and Kawhi, but those guys are going to deal with wings and whatnot, and it's very easy for Luka and Kyrie to throw those guys in pick and roll, seek a switch on someone else, like maybe Terrence Mann or Norman Powell or any of these other, Clipper defenders that aren't as prominent on the defensive end. But, the Clippers have been 22nd in defensive rating since the All-Star break, 11th in offensive rating. I know a good chunk of that was without Westbrook. They're just a different team with Westbrook. I said it earlier, it's not just about the energy, but it's his versatility. It's his way that he can play on both sides of the floor. He's an additional ball handler. He knows where Kawhi and PG both like the ball and their spots based off their camaraderie that they built off last year. So I do think that Westbrook is really going to be the X factor here. The Clippers are only going to be as good as he plays. Kawhi and PG, they can go off for 30, whatnot, but the one thing with the Clippers is they're gonna need to get stops. They're definitely gonna need to get stops. I think Ty Lue's minute management of Russell Westbrook is gonna be key. Norman Powell, if he's hitting shots off the bench, then I think it's really a toss-up of a game. But the role players on Dallas, and I know Tim Hardaway Jr. rolled his ankle, the role players on Dallas, guys like Lively, Gafford's been, kind of up and down since this series started. His minutes has been cut a little bit. But, Josh Green, Derek Lively, Derek Jones Jr., PJ Washington, those are going to be, and they've already proven it, they've been really, really good for the Mavericks, especially second half of the season. If those guys can carry that momentum to each game of this playoff series, then I still think that the Mavericks have the edge. I just think that the Clippers, sometimes it just gets too redundant. Sometimes they're just watching each other too much. And it's similar to Phoenix. I just feel like they don't use each other enough. You know what I mean? Obviously, Harden has played well. He's played well to this point. I can't even really point the finger at him. But he definitely needs a little bit of help. Besides Russell Westbrook's defensive versatility and his minutes, the next X factor I would look at is PG. PG has to get more shots. He has to be more aggressive from first minute to the last second on the buzzer. He has to be arguably the most aggressive person on the Clippers team because Kawhi is still working himself back from this knee swelling. We don't really know how long that's going to take until we see him, at the peak Kawhi version that we saw back in December and January. We don't even know if he's even going to come back to that version. We're just not sure. So I think that those two factors, Russell Westbrook's minute management and his ability to, defend Kyrie and Luka, as well as PG's aggressiveness and Norman Powell's spark off the bench, those are going to be the difference makers for the Clippers going into the series. If some of those things don't, translate into the game, then I still think that the Mavericks will be able to win this series. It seems like Kyrie and Luka, they've gained some more momentum into game 2, and we saw it. Luka hit that big shot over Harden to close the game. Kyrie's just been efficient, very, very tenacious on defense too, with the quick hands and taking on the challenge of defending Harden and just making it rough on the opposing guards. So you got to respect that. Tip your hat off to him. I think the Mavericks do take game 3, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Clippers won. But I still think that the only way the Clippers could win is if Kawhi is back to just being Kawhi, and then of course some of the things that I mentioned before. The Knicks 76ers. Game 3 was last night. Sixers won. Embiid dropped a 50-piece. Very understated 50-piece. I was online, like on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, and I didn't see any buzz about him dropping 50. Like, that guy is literally playing on one leg, and I've been kind of harsh on Embiid because his playoff success has been minimal. Part of that has been due to bad luck, Ben Simmons, James Harden, Doc Rivers, and he's been kind of let down. But I do have to be honest with myself. He's also, let some guys down too. This was a former MVP last year that, choked a 3-2 lead. Can't go unmentioned. I have to keep it fair with everyone. Embiid looks like he's playing about 75%. Games 1 and 2 were very winnable by Philly. Very, very winnable, especially game 2. You had that controversial, no call on Tyrese Maxey on pulling his jersey, and then Nick Nurse's attempts to call the timeouts didn't give it to him. But you can't be mad at that. This is an MSG. It's a zoo. People are yelling, going crazy. So for the refs not to hear that or acknowledge his timeouts, I can't. It's not something I've never seen before, especially in a playoff setting. But, what was crazy to me, Brunson, the first 2 games, struggled so bad to shoot from the field. Like, he struggled so bad. I think Brunson was shooting 29% through the first 2 games. I know he had a great game yesterday. I think he had like 39 and 13, 13 to 27 shooting, only a couple of turnovers. He played very well. That was the Brunson game. But this is going to be a dogfight. I mean, I picked the Sixers to win in 7. It's going to be up to the role guys. It's going to be, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo. They got to face, Buddy Hield, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris. Like, it's going to be those 2, groups that, like, the winner of those 2 groups is going to win the series because Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, they've been exceptional to this point. And Tyrese Maxey had like 25 last night. This is Tyrese Maxey's first, and I know he was in the playoffs last year, but we didn't put any expectations on him to play, playoff basketball at a star, superstar, all-star level. But, this year winning Most Improved, making his first all-star game, and then, to this point, he's just been exceptional. He just has a ridiculous first step, and you can't account for him. And if he's hitting the 3 ball, then you're in for a long night. So I want to tip my hat off to Tyrese Maxey. Love what I'm seeing from him. The Knicks are winning the rebounding battle, with Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson coming back. That's been huge. Embiid definitely needs help on the boards, and that may be room for concern, as the series goes along because Philly doesn't have a lot of bigs to help him out in that department. Buddy Hield played like 5 minutes, I think, in game 2. Very alarming because the asset that they took on with his shooting ability, you would think that would be a huge difference maker for a team that is centered around Embiid, and he just hasn't been playing. Very impressed with Kelly Oubre. He signed I think he got the vet minimum in the summer, and he's just been a bargain for the Sixers this year. He's going to be huge too. McBride on the Knicks, like I said about Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, just the Villanova Knicks. They play well together. There's really not much more I can say. This series is going to be a dogfight. Knicks are still up 2-1. I'm not sure when Game 4 is, but like I said, I had this going 7. I think the Sixers are going to pull it out. And, I'm in for a dogfight of the series. One thing that I do want to mention is D'Anthony Melton is not getting a lot of minutes. And that was a guy that on a lot of the Philadelphia, 5-man lineups, his advanced numbers were off the charts. He was a plus-level player, another ball handler to help out Maxey, can shoot the 3-ball a little bit, defend. I'm kind of shocked at, his minimal minutes. I think Cam Payne outplayed him yesterday. Depending on your opinion of Cam Payne, I'm not sure if you would play Cam Payne over D'Anthony Melton in a playoff series, but I definitely think that the Sixers, Knicks are going to go 7, dogfight. I'm super impressed with Embiid, super impressed. But the thing is like I'm always super impressed with Joel Embiid, but when it comes to the crunch time, he just kind of falters. So that's going to be something I'm looking out for. Cavs Magic. The Magic with a very impressive smackdown of the Cavs in Game 3. Paolo Banchero, superstar level type of game. I think he had like 35 points, 13 boards. And my thing with this game is like, even though the Magic and the Cavs, they've been two of, the best defenses in the league, the Magic, they kind of struggle to score in the half court. Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, they're okay. This is more so for Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony because they're the offensively minded, point guards. Suggs is really out there to kind of hound Garland, hound Mitchell, stretch the floor and be that kind of grit backcourt guy. But if those guys aren't going to provide much on offense, and they did in Game 3, but the first 2 games, they weren't offering much. But if Game 3, like they showcase, getting into double digits, getting shots, creating shots for players, if Cole and Markelle Fultz can continue to do that, then this is going to be a longer series than I first predicted. I do have the Cavs winning in 5, but the Magic definitely showed me something yesterday that I wasn't ready for. I do think Darius Garland's aggressiveness just needs a tick up. I feel like this offense is too Donovan Mitchell, and I get it. Garland is a table setter. He's kind of an old school traditional point guard, but the talent in this league and the talent that he possesses, I want to see him shooting 18 times. Take 5 threes, 6 threes a night. See if you can hit a couple. He's a great shooter. Great perimeter guy. He's shifty, hard to guard in one-on-one. He's exceptional in the pick and roll. He gets Evan Mobley and Jared Allen a lot. He gets them a lot of, high quality looks, the lobs, dumps in the post. So I'd like to see Garland at least get to the free throw line a little bit more, look for a shot a little bit more, because at end all be all, that's going to help Mitchell out, because you already know that round by round, wherever the Cavs playoff destiny lands, everyone's scouting report of Mitchell is going to be sent to, his scouting report is just going to be too lengthy. Everyone knows that he's going to be shooting 20 to 25 times. So if Garland can just be able to provide that spark, or if JB Bickerstaff can at least get lineups where Garland is able to showcase his offensive scoring abilities, I still think in crunch time, that's going to help out Mitchell a lot. So, the crunch time, it's not going to be too predictable that, okay, Mitchell's taking the last shot. Oh, Mitchell has to create something. I just feel like it's just too Mitchell-based. It's too much Mitchell, just a teeny bit. And Mitchell's not, I wouldn't call Mitchell a selfish player. I mean, that's a guy that does share the rock too. He can play on or off. He basically plays whatever role you need him to, and he was exceptional when Garland was out. When Garland came back and Mitchell, had a facial fracture, the Cavs were kind of up and down, but I still think that Garland is not completely found himself in this offense, sort of say, outside of the playmaking abilities and, getting guys good shots, because that he's always done that since he got into the league. But I still think that there's a whole nother tier in terms of scoring that he can showcase. He's just too talented, in my opinion, and I think that's something that Bickerstaff and the rest of the coaching staff, they should address. Max Strus, Isaac Okoro, X factors for them, 3-and-D wise. Max Strus, we saw what he did to Boston last year in that playoff series in the first round. Very interested to see how that translates. Isaac Okoro, another 3-and-D standout guy for the Cavs. it's kind of unfair because he's probably been matched up with guys like Paolo, but Franz Wagner. Kind of a tough series for him, but I feel like he's played solid. I feel like he's showcased. I feel like he's improved year in, year out, and he's going to be huge in transition, slashing opportunities. He's hitting the three ball at a slightly higher clip than he did in years past, so that's very promising and optimistic. But yeah, I still have the Cavs in 5. I think this was just the game that Orlando got. Orlando won Game 3. It's their first playoff home game in God knows how long. I'm not even sure. Maybe it's got to be since the Dwight era, I'd assume. But I still think the Cavs will take care of business when all said and done. Let's see. Lakers Nuggets. Last night, Denver took a 3-0 lead on LeBron and company. It's tough. It's a tough watch because I know how invested LeBron is. Like I talked about with my boy Jason, and we talked about Mind the Game podcast, and just LeBron's IQ and just how it's just off the charts, and that's just such a vital component for these playoff teams. Is like if your superstar player is at that level mentally, IQ wise, and has the experience to back that up, it just gives you the ultimate edge. And I thought that LeBron, even right now, he had like 26, 8, and like 10 last night. He's still doing a lot. It's just unprecedented. A 39-year-old to be playing at this level in the NBA playoffs, it's something that I've never seen, you probably haven't seen, and no one's probably ever going to see. At least not in my lifetime. Maybe the next one. But Denver and their execution is just at a superb clip, and I can't, they're a juggernaut. They're just a juggernaut. Obviously, we saw what Jamal Murray did in Game 2, the game winner followed on AD. D'Angelo Russell had a very, very rough Game 3. I think he went 0 for 7. There's that cut of him sitting outside the Lakers huddle. I said before the season started that Gabe Vincent, Austin Reeves, and D'Angelo Russell, that's going to be the make or break to your season. Because I already know AD is going to give you 25 and 10 and play exceptional defense. I already know LeBron is going to be a 26, 5, and 8 guy, going to play decent defense. He's going to get hot from 3 here and there. He's going to be the table setter, your go-to ball handler in crunch time. I already knew these things. But they definitely missed Vando. Just a lack of wing depth, lack of wing defenders. And, the Denver Nuggets, their execution in crunch time just continues to be just at a level that I've never seen before in terms of a championship juggernaut contending team. And it looks like the brooms are going to be out. It would be sad for LeBron to get swept back-to-back years, even at this age, but you definitely don't want to see him closed out in that fashion. So I don't know. I really don't know what to expect. I don't even know where the Lakers can go from here. It's sad because even if they do lose Darwin Ham, who I don't think deserves to get canned, they're probably going to can him because you can't go back-to-back series against a team, not get a game. They haven't won. I don't think the Lakers have not beaten the Nuggets the past 11 straight games dating back to 2022, I believe. And in that span, obviously they've lost, but they haven't. The last time they won, I believe Russell Westbrook was playing. Go figure. And now D'Angelo Russell is playing for them now, and he can't hit a shot in the playoffs in crunch time. Shocker. So that's that. The OKC Thunder, New Orleans Pelicans. OKC's up 2-0. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a player that I have been reluctant, and if you look at my playoff player pyramid, he's not super high up there. It's not because of talent, but because I did value experience and what you've done in the playoffs to this point. And to this point, prior to what he's done, in the first 2 games, obviously, he just hasn't had a lot of playoff success, and that's, not his fault. It's just the situations he's been in. He hasn't been on great playoff teams. I mean, he had that one series with CP3, Dennis Schroeder. They almost beat that 2020 Rockets team in 7 games in the bubble, and then he was a rookie on that Clippers team that took 2 against the Warriors, I think I believe it was 2019, before he got included in the package to OKC in the PG trade. But, through 2 games, he's been great. He's averaging 30 a night. I love his shot diet, his shot profile. Like he just takes great shots. It's nothing new. We saw it in not even this year, but we saw it last year when he made first team All NBA, and then the momentum it carried on to this year. The hard work he's put in. He's been great. Shai Gilgeous he's been amazing, and he's been the leader of an amazing young team in the OKC Thunder. J-Dub, Chet Holmgren have been solid too. They're both averaging around 20 a night. I know J-Dub's three ball isn't falling yet, which is scary because they're absolutely decimating the Pelicans, and J-Dub is not even hitting his threes yet. But I just love how seamlessly the team fits with each other. And then you got guys like Isaiah Joe, Case and Wallace off the bench they're just sparking up that team every time. There's just no fall off. Shai Gilgeous goes to the bench or Giddey goes to the bench, and then they bring in one of those guards, and the fall off it's just no fall off. I mean, they're just an amazing team. They play well together. One thing that's been standing out to me with the Pelicans, and I know Zion's out, which it's a bummer because he was playing amazing in that Lakers game, dropping, I think he had 40 that night. I think the Pelicans need a dynamic, floor setter for guard. CJ McCollum is a solid vet, half-court scorer. He can stretch the floor, hit the three, he can create a shot for his own. He's efficient. But he's just not that next level, superstar level playoff scorer. He's shown it at times, but even in his days in Portland, he was next to Dame in particular situations. And I just think right now he's just in a different phase in his career. And I'm not saying he's bad. He can still give you a solid 20 a night if you give him the touches and the shots and the opportunities. But for the Pelicans to take that next step, I think they need a legit floor setter. I think Zion and BI suffer a lot from, I think, what Booker and Durant are also suffering is that they don't have a table setter. They don't have a guy to get them easier looks. Ingram, by default, has kind of been their point guard this season. And I love the shots he gets, too. He takes great shots. He can dissect you in the mid-range. He's a connected passer. A lot of hockey assists. He's very selfless. But, even himself, he's been kind of a shell of himself, and I always just mention to everyone, and people at this point, they've definitely seen it. Brandon Ingram in 2021 against the Suns, those first 4 or 5 games where he was just 28, 4 and 4 a night, picking apart that Phoenix defense that had Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Chris Paul, Booker, Ayton in the paint. That was a really good defensive team, and when he showcase that, I was like, okay, what do we have here? I'm not sure if OKC is just a tough matchup. I'm not sure if Ingram is still shaking off, his knee strain injury that he suffered late in the season. Not quite sure. It's kind of puzzling because the Pelicans have been a great net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating team. I've talked about them a bunch this year, just like Phoenix and Boston. They're a team that makes sense. I just like the pieces that are together, but it seems like they have just so much of one thing. I mean, they have a bunch of wings. Obviously, they have Zion. You got B.I., you got Trey Murphy. And then we have, the ascendance of Herb Jones, what he offers on defense. He's probably going to make an all-defensive team. Actually, no, he already made it. I'm sorry. Those already came out. He already made the defensive team. Congrats to Herb Jones. But he has been a lot more, open to putting the ball on the ground. He looks a lot more comfortable shooting the ball. He gets a lot of corner three looks off of, Zion and BI passes. So, I don't know. The Pelicans have been a puzzling team. I think I picked the Thunder to win in 6 or 7. But the way this series is unfolding, this is going to be over in like 5 games for sure. If Ingram doesn't, put on his Batman suit, then this is going to be over real quick because I don't expect Zion to come back at all. And Shai and J-Dub and Chet, the whole team really, and team of young kids, the Thunder, they're just getting more experience. They're getting more comfortable. They're getting more confident. So I don't know. I don't know if you want to take that on, but I expect the Pelicans to at least get a game if they're going to play like this. But coming into the series, I thought at least this would be a dogfight. And the games have been a little bit more closer than, the story will tell you. But I definitely need to see
I like to see a sense of urgency, especially, from Ingram. I mean, he's the leader of the troops. He's probably the most vet experience on the team, especially from a guy that's been in the playoffs. I definitely expect him to, kind of, let's see something. You know what I mean? You're a guy that made Team USA. You've made an All-Star game. You're a guy that I've kind of defended him a lot, with his play style, and everyone around the league seems to praise the type of player he is, but there's just something that's just not there, and I'm not sure what it is. But I still expect the Pelicans to, they're a fighting team. They're a dogfight. Willie Green is, just one of those coaches that looks like you'd love to play for, fight for. So I think they're going to fight for him. If they can even the series 2-2, that would be really fun. That would make the series really fun. But one game at a time. But yeah, just, a very, very impressed with what I've seen from the Thunder this early in their playoff careers, especially given the youth and the age. I'm going to close this off with some Pacers-Bucks takeaways. The series is tied 1-1. Pascal Siakam had an exceptional game 2. Halliburton is, just like I said, with these young guys, getting more experience, getting more acclimated and comfortable with the playoff setting and the pace and the tempo. The Pacers have been a team, they've been running on guys all year. That's why it's very key that you get really good quality shots against that team, because they're not an amazing defensive team, but in a way they are, because if they do force up a bad shot or if they get a rebound, they're out on the break. They're running. That team just likes to run. And given the playoffs are a little bit different, paced, because of Tyrese Halliburton's ability to dissect the floor, break down defenses, quarterback the offense, orchestrate it, run it, I still think the Pacers are going to be a decent, half-court team the rest of the series. And the lack of wing depth and the injuries, to Giannis, and now Chris Middleton's dinged up. Their lack of wing depth definitely alarms me. I think Pascal Siakam is definitely going to be able to now just kind of run a track meet on them. But, I don't think I'd be very worried if I was a Bucks fan, because, the Pacers got one in Milwaukee. Now you're putting a lot of pressure on Dame, a lot of pressure on Connaughton, a lot of pressure on Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez. A lot of these guys, it's just a lot of pressure. And I'm not sure if they've ever been in a position like this outside of Dame, backs against the wall. Now they're on the road. Doc Rivers, not particularly a coach that has come through in big time crunch moments the past couple of years. So I'd be a little worrisome about that. The Bucks injuries are just tough timing. Talk about bad luck. Like, if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, I'm sorry. Like, you lose. So you have Giannis, who has a back injury against Miami Heat. You end up losing. Jimmy Butler basically picks apart Drew Holiday, limb from limb. Chris Middleton is still a shell of himself because he's just not ready after the injury he had prior. And then you have this year another, nasty injury for Giannis, and you don't even know when he's going to come back. And this is a guy that needs his calf. Like, there are parallels from his injury to Kevin Durant's calf injury from 2019, but Kevin Durant is a lot more, lower to the ground, a lot more methodical, can pick his spots. He's a lot more skilled, polished, and that's just how he attacks defenses. Giannis, on the other hand, is a guy that just likes to get out and run. He likes to punish you. He's a driver. He thrives off power and, throwing you in the rim. And for that type of play style that he has, he's really going to be, needing that calf. And you don't want to rush him back with such a weird injury like that. So the Pacers-Bucks is a funny series to assess because you don't know what Dame you're getting. He's been playing really well in the playoffs this year. But I just think that's a lot of pressure for him. A lot of pressure for him and the rest of the Bucks guys, especially down there, 2-star vets. Yeah, you're not really sure what you're going to expect. But if I were the Pacers, I would definitely, you got to put your foot on the gas because you don't get so many opportunities like this. And you get around early against a team that's been pretty good given all the turmoil and distractions that they have had and the injuries in Milwaukee. Milwaukee has just had a year from hell. And amidst all that, they were still able to grab the number 2 seed. So yeah, I'm not really sure where I can envision the Bucks going from here, aside from them just, getting their guys back, play some defense, make it rough on Tyrese Halliburton to get the offense organized, make Siakam take tough shots, and, just kind of hope for the best. Just play a physical brand of basketball and just, kind of hope for the best, like I said. But yeah, those are my I wouldn't say game 2 takeaways, just because some of these series are already past game 3. But just a brief check-in, just because there's a lot of stuff going on. It's important to just key in, and a lot of things I like, a lot of things I'm not liking, some surprises. And who knows, a lot of these series that are 2-0, 2-1, they might end up being, 2-2, 3-2, 3-3. You never know. So, appreciate y'all tapping into that episode of Nass the Pod. More guests coming soon. I had to tap in with y'all real quick, man, because, playoff basketball's here. Playoff basketball is fun. Do yourself a favor. Catch a game. Go out to eat. Take your girl out to eat. Watch a game. Get a drink. Just relax. Playoff basketball, that's what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be relaxed. It's supposed to be relaxing and, yeah. But, all right, man, y'all. I'll catch y'all soon.